Today on Locked on Phoenix Suns, the end, mercilessly, finally, of this East Coast road trip. A more competitive game than expected in Madison Square Garden, and a closer look at one of the teams that we think will be pursuing Kevin Durant this season. We'll talk it all through next.
You are Locked on Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked on Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked on Suns your first listen late on a Sunday into a Monday. Don't forget Locked on Suns, free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Joining me as always from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling? Early-ish, not too late on a Sunday evening. After this loss, Ben Garcia.
Keep the 4 o'clock games coming. If I could watch every game at 4 and get to bed by 8:30, yeah, I'm all in, man. I would be curious more how you're doing. You know, another year around the sun. What is it? Around the moon? Around the sun? I don't know. You're another year older. Is it the sun?
It's the sun.
Another year older.
Galileo,
How is?
I think figured that stuff out a while back.
You went all the way out to Texas. You took a refresh. I tried to send you 0 Suns or NBA related content while you were out of town because I was like, this guy needs a cleanse from this. So are you back, ready to go? You feel better now?
I'm ready to go for the final 4 games that may or may not mean anything. Yeah, I'm back. No, it was good. It was nice. Yes, it was my birthday. I am 42 now, so it's been a great, close to half century on the planet, and I look forward to another 50 here coming. All right, let's get into it, though. 112-98, the Suns lost to the New York Knicks. I'll just start us where I think our attention has to be paid mostly here, Ben, which is Devin Booker. I think it's worth digging into his performance, and we didn't do an episode after the game on Friday night, but he is closing the season, I think, the way that you would have wanted him to, especially once you knew that Kevin Durant was going to be out and he was the only source of offense that was really going to be here for this team. And, of course, with the struggles he's had this year, he has done it all. And I joked on X that, there's Olympic book. We've talked about that. There's point book back in his developmental days. We all kind of, okay, should he be playing point guard? He did that a little last year. This is bat out of hell book. This is a guy that shows up intermittently, and I don't know. We should talk about why this is happening now, or like why it doesn't always, and everything else. But we've seen this before. Maybe you could also just say it's MSG book because he always plays well in New York City. But relentless driving to the basket. Totally confident and comfortable creating offense, possession in, possession out, and you look up, 40 points, better than 50% from the field, some turnovers, not a ton of assists, but that's what happens when you're playing with this type of group, and just a relentless performance and huge numbers from number one.
Yeah, I think what was most impressive about it was done on a really good defender in OG Anunoby, and, switch-offs are going to be handed over to Mikal Bridges, another pretty good defender. Definitely not what he used to be in his Phoenix days, but it's stuff you want to see from Booker. I mean, I can't help but still feel, it's 40 points. He was awesome from the field. 2 for 7 from 3. We've talked about that, beat a dead horse a million times on the show, talking about his 3-point issues. But it is a little upsetting where it does kind of feel like too little too late. I don't want to rag on the guy, but definitely. I don't want these last couple of games of Devin Booker not still hold him accountable for what was not to what we've grown accustomed to with Devin Booker. I love that he's leaving it all out there. One of the things that I think is very commendable about Booker is he could do what it feels like Beal has been doing, which is mailing it in and getting ready for the offseason, or what Zion Williamson and who's the other guy that's sitting out for the rest of the year because they're not in the playoff hunt. They're letting them sit. Like, he's not doing that. And so as much as I do kind of want to go after Booker a little bit, it feels not justified to do it today. 40 points in a game of guys that were just can be thrown at Booker over and over and over again. It wasn't efficient. It wasn't non-efficient. It wasn't one of those just shot chucking games. They needed every point, man. He had 40 of their 98 points. So that was really encouraging to see. And I hope it continues because what we're seeing now, again, the Suns, given the fact that they're probably going to trade Kevin Durant, they're going to have guys to help kind of mold this team around Booker. But this is giving you a look of what it's probably going to look like next year. Potentially no Beal on the court, no Kevin Durant. So it was kind of nice to see, like, oh, if he's the guy, that's the guy we've grown accustomed to. He can go get 40 on any other night. It wasn't a facade. So that stuff is really nice. It's a little infuriating because I do wish we got that earlier in the year. But even if we had that guy, I'm not so sure what the ceiling would have been for this team anyways. What about you?
Yeah, because I think, there is an aspect of this where, like, I think the other night I called it, like, maybe you could go IDGAF Booker at some points, kind of like what he did in Game 4 against Minnesota last year, where it's just whatever, right? And I don't think that it's fair to expect like this type of performance from Book over 82 games. I don't think A, it's what he's comfortable doing, and B, I do think physically it would wear him down. It would wear most guys down unless it's like prime Dwayne Wade or something like that. But I think it's interesting to kind of think of like why can he get here sometimes and what's preventing him, aside from the things I just said, that it's tiring and everything else, from tapping into this type of player more often. And I don't mean doing it 30 times a game, but I think the idea that, like, when I see it, and to agree with you a little bit, that it can be frustrating. It specifically for me, it's the getting to the basket. Why is it only when either he's desperate or he's just trying to prove something or he's the only guy out there who can score, whatever it is? Why are those the only times when he's consistently getting to the basket? That's the part that I do think is fair to be disappointed by, because I look at his shot chart tonight and I'm not going to be able to see it exactly, but like, that's a lot of circles in the paint. I would say half or so of his shots were in the paint tonight. That's not normal for him, and it has to be. He just has to be more like that guy more consistently, and I don't know what it's going to take to get him to do that, because I don't know what the pattern is of when he does it.
It's a really good observation you made. I obviously pulled up his shot chart as you were talking about, and almost everything is 10 feet in from the basket outside of an elbow jumper on the right side, and almost like a near top of the key deuce again in that game, where it felt like Devin Booker should have been at the line like 10 times more than he was there. Like, it felt like he easily could have had 50 tonight. But, a home whistle does go one way and at times. And so I agree with you, man. It doesn't make a ton of sense when you look at it. I really like the phrase that you've coined in the IDGAF of Devin Booker, where you put it perfect where it's like, if we lose, you're not going to point to me on why we lost. And I thought there were some possessions in this game defensively, like late in the game, where it looked like him and Tyus Jones were kind of miscalculating who was coming in on an inbound, and they get an easy bucket late in that fourth quarter. But I mean, this isn't a Budenholzer style of Booker. It's not get to the paint. It's a lot of 3-point shot chucking. That's for the whole team. And so I don't know, man. I don't know what it is. Put your head down and score. I don't know if it's less pressure because the team isn't necessarily performing and you just need to go get yours. I don't know what it is, man, because you can't even lean on that either, because, again, I point back to they needed every single point from this guy. If he had 30 points tonight, they lose by 30 points. And so the only reason why it was close was because he went into I don't give a bleep mode in Devin Booker. So these are just the things that we've grown accustomed from him doing. And so Again, I just go
Yeah.
back to, I don't know why he couldn't do this earlier in the year. I also
Well,
think I just want to say, like, I also think it's simplicity in the offense. There's no worry about getting it to Kevin Durant, getting it to Bradley Beal. It's
and
like
there's
you're the guy
no,
and go.
I think it's understood too, like it was in game 4 of that Minnesota series where it's like you're kind of just rolling the ball out. Forget it. I mean, KD played in that game 4, but it's like you're
Yeah.
down 3. You're not winning the series. In this situation, you're 2.5 games out of the play in, let alone even making any noise once you get there. Who cares, right? Like there is an element of where it's just let's go play, and so that's just he's not taking them out of anything. He's just sort of in an open gym almost. But I think two things to close here that I would posit out there as possibilities of why it's happening now or why it happens when it does at various points over his career. One is space. I think that I mean, they didn't make a lot of threes or take a lot of threes tonight, but when he plays fast and when the guys around him are moving the ball and in at least opening up the court for him, no Cody Martin minutes tonight. More Oso, more Ryan Dunn. Those guys were making good plays on the short roll. Less Tyus, more Colin Gillespie. Grayson Allen's at least taking the threes, although he went cold. Even Beal being out there, I think, is better than some of the alternatives. And so I think it's that. And then he needs to figure out how to not always peak physically right now. I mean, I know it's nice when they make the playoffs, but in seasons where they need more from him in the regular season, you can't always have those November, December soft tissue injuries where you're 40 games in before you're getting your rhythm. That's a problem. And it's obviously nice when 2021 you're making the finals, but in seasons like this, you really look at some of those games early where he struggled, and it would sure have been nice to be able to get some of those back, like that stretch where KD missed in November and Book wasn't good enough to get them some of those wins. Maybe nobody could have been good enough unless you're talking, best 3-5 guys in the NBA, but those are two things I throw out there. Let's get to Bradley Beal next because he has had the opposite of the performances that Devin Booker has had. Next. First today's show brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder where did all my money go? Well, we all have, and that's because between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start actually building wealth. Obviously, the economy is a topic in the news right now. Get all of it figured out and at least accounted for in one place with Monarch Money. Make sure your stuff's where you want it to be, in check, and don't miss anything. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's MONARCHMONEY.com. Code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, let's wrap it. No, we'll do 2 more segments like normal. How about that? Bradley Beal, 8 of 19 from the field tonight, Ben, and 16 points, 5 fouls, 0 of 5 from 3, 0 of 2 from the free throw line. And that comes after a game where he finally made his return Friday in Boston and scored a grand total of 1 point. I'm caught between, you mentioned it already, right? Just not head in the game, whatever it might be, ready for the offseason. There's obviously the physical. He cannot get out of his own way with the injury stuff. Even if you question how hurt he may or may not be at some of these points, he obviously hasn't been on the court. There's rust, if nothing else. But some of these moments, you could convince me the dude is like on his way to some kind of yips. Like something is weird with him right now. There was a play in this game. He goes up for a layup. The ball flies in the air in the third quarter. He's missed multiple layups just when he actually does get a shot off. He front rimmed a 3 when the game was still in the balance in the fourth quarter. I don't know what's going on, but this is worse than it's been at any point in what has already been an awful season by Bradley Beal.
I think the comp to Bradley Beal, because of the backlash that he's getting on whatever you want to talk about. I mean, in the stands, his wife has talked about the things that are said to her on social media. I mean, even the media itself has went after Bradley Beal. I think what is most similar to this is the Tobias Harris thing in Philadelphia, where he then goes to the Pistons and he's a pretty solid role player for them, where people in Philadelphia are kind of like, where the hell was this guy when we needed him? Well, maybe he was never meant to be a three. Well, maybe Bradley Beal was never meant to be in winning basketball games. Maybe he's just not a winning basketball player. It's not me. It sounds bad.
I mean, it's an insult. You can't.
I know it does. I know it does. I know it
Yeah.
does. Maybe he's not a winning basketball player. I don't know if LaMelo Ball's a winning basketball player. I haven't seen any. For the longest time, it was like, can you win games with Devin Booker? I think at this point in Bradley Beal's career, he is a bucket getter on a team that isn't really looking to win anything. You can win games. You can get to the playoffs with Beal, but you had said something to me about like Domantas Sabonis one time. You were like, you can never win a championship with that guy. It was private conversation off the air one time, and Beal might just be that guy too. You might just never be able to win a championship with Bradley Beal. But what I will say is, like,
just to defend myself, very different with Sabonis. To me, that's physical limitations because he's a small center who doesn't shoot threes. He plays his ass off. So let's just make that distinction. So people, if there's a Kings fan out there, I don't disrespect Domantas's effort. Whereas Beal, sometimes.
Yeah, no, the effort, same with Bradley Beal. Well, what I will say though, man, it is starting to piss me off surrounding the discourse around Bradley Beal. I'm just as annoyed as everyone else. His comments, I don't think are meant to be malicious, but when you just put them out in a social media post, they look bad. But Bradley Beal is not the reason why the Suns season has gone the way it has. This team is fundamentally broken. I don't think, I understand the statistics are there. Like with the whole Jimmy Butler thing, they're 21-4 with him. They're basically have jumped from a good to a great team with Jimmy Butler. But like the Suns, I don't think the Warriors were asking to be saved with Jimmy Butler. I think if you brought Jimmy Butler here, the Suns would have asked him to save them. And I don't know how well that would have worked out. Would they have been a better team? Yes. But like this team is so broken from top to bottom. Ryan Dunn can't hit a three. Cody Martin was fun for a couple of games. He does play hard. Oso Iguodala was a rookie. Tyus Jones is just as annoying as Bradley Beal at times. The Kevin Durant stuff, like he's injured. It's not on him that the Suns have been as bad as they are. I don't think he's of no blame, but he's of some blame. Like it is starting to piss me off. Like the idea that everything is Bradley Beal's fault, isolating stuff on social media, like it is annoying.
I don't think everything's Bradley Beal's fault, but I think it's more than fair to say that the trade is a big part of why they're in the situation that they're in. And I think that his lack of availability, if nothing else, is really crippling to the continuity, as we've talked about all year, of any team trying to win games. And I think that his comments do come off as a little bit like
condescending.
Not even condescending, but like lack of awareness, you know what I mean? Of the situation that he's kind of put the team in with his contract, which not his fault, but it is a fact. And I would at least be mindful of it if I was him and I was speaking publicly to the fan base. And his injuries, he hasn't played enough. Like forget how well, like obviously athletes are always going to have an outsized perspective on their own performance relative to what it actually is. They're going to think they're 15, 20% better than they are no matter what it is because they're confident they have to be. But I think if nothing else, it's like you're playing 50, 60 games every year. That's not enough for a player who's supposed to be one of the top guys. But here's what I'll say, because I agreed with everything you said, and I gave my piece on his performance today and everything. It's at least setting up a situation, and this is part of why I don't even know what it's going to look like, and obviously we have plenty of time to talk about it, where if he's on this roster next year, it's going to become untenable. It's going to become a real problem. Booing, just absolute onslaught of negativity. That is what it's setting up for, because part of what would have to likely happen for him to be on this roster next year is that it's another 6 months of him not playing ball with the no trade clause. And at that point, it becomes kind of indignant, kind of stubborn, kind of like, no, you gotta deal with me. And it's like, at that point, I think fans have every right to be frustrated when this is what you're giving them. 8 of 19, throwing the ball all around the gym, can't even be a positive player, let alone a $50 million guy.
Every right to be frustrated. I get all that, but it just feels like, and I'm going to get to the Bradley Beal thing as well, but like Grayson Allen's been a debacle this year. Royce O'Neal is like a poor man's Jay Crowder at this point. There's just issues everywhere with this team. They're fundamentally broken. And I don't even want to continue down that route. I want to continue with what you just said a second ago. It has come to the point where it's not even like, well, if they trade Bradley Beal, they're regardless of Kevin Durant's gone next year, when Kevin Durant's gone next year, like you can't have Bradley Beal here.
No.
You're going to have to trade whatever assets you have to give up just to get off of his deal. You know, Jason Timpf came on this podcast one time and was like, you have to try to get something for Beal. Not even like elite shot makers, like just guys that are gritty, jump on the floor, go do all the little stuff, like something that adds some substance to your team. But I'm with you, man. I didn't mean to cut you off there a second ago because I already knew what was coming. Mm-hmm. It's going to get, if you think it's bad this year, it's going to get awful next year. And toxicity.
Yeah, it's like, at this point, it's like, you know, I look at the Wizards. They were rumored to have interest. Jordan Poole, Marcus Smart's contract. Great.
Yeah, you have to.
Cool.
Have to take it.
Whatever. You know what I mean? Like he just can't be here. And I do think like it's not all his fault by any means. It's not his fault that the one trade thing that got set up was to get Jimmy Butler, which was crazy and a miracle, like a 1 in a million type thing in the first place. But over the offseason, there's going to be a lot more wiggle room to get stuff done. And if he continues to drag his feet, it's really going to get ugly. So
at this point, just really quickly before you jump to the next thing, percentage chance he's here next year? Because I'm willing to go at like 20% that he's here. I think the Suns are going to have to do everything to move off of him.
Don't know what to say until we have like rumors about what's going to happen. Because right now it's like that would just be my opinion. But I would probably agree with you if I were to just say like how it feels right now. We got to wait and see which teams we knew in February who might have been interested. I don't think Atlanta's on that list anymore, for instance. And so we kind of got to see that. But if they can have anybody who's even 30% interested in being a trade partner here, then they got to become best friends with that team's GM. Send them flowers and a freaking, anniversary card for their wife, whatever it takes.
I never thought in a million years, because the Suns still gave up like next to nothing for Bradley Beal. I don't think any of those first round picks will ever be exercised in swaps. What I will say though is I never thought in a million years, I thought the Suns emphatically just like lost that trade and they didn't give up anything outside of some second round picks and some pick swaps, but like they lost that deal because just getting off of that contract was an A+ move for the Wizards and an F- for the Suns. So that's how bad it's gotten, man. I think as well, some of this is the reason why people blame Beal is because of the self-awareness that you pointed out to, that he cannot get out of his own way.
Yeah, coming back and saying we still have a run potentially. It's like that's not for anybody, brother. Nobody buys that. You're being ridiculous. Like you gotta read the room a little better. All right, let's get to what the Knicks package might look like. I talked about this at the end of last week generally, but we saw the guys, and Ben and I haven't really discussed the New York side of it, so we'll do that next. First, today's show is brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you will get $250 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. Monday night, we mentioned Tobias Harris, his old team, minus 1,000 to lose to the Miami Heat on the road in Miami, who are theoretically still chasing a play-in spot. The East play-in just about as ugly as the West play-in, but hey, somebody's got to win these games. Somebody's got to get the playoff spot, and the Miami Heat are pretty good bets to at least beat the Sixers, if nobody else. Check out parlays, check out favorites, check out whatever you want across the whole world of sports beyond the NBA. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com, claim your $250 in bonus bets today. All right, Ben, let's breeze through this last chunk here. The New York Knicks are apparently in the mix for Kevin Durant. And I think you and I both have questioned a little bit, how real that could possibly be. I'll just say that I talked to Gavin Shaw, who does the Locked On Knicks show for us, and he happens to live in Phoenix. And he's we've both talked to him at games here and there throughout the season, and I
Yeah, good
asked him
dude.
about it, and he was like, Karl Anthony Towns is kind of the only thing that makes sense for me in a KD trade. And I was like, I don't see that at all. I mean, you're kind of right back to square one with a really expensive team that's probably not good enough to win a title. Like that doesn't make sense. We've seen OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, for instance. You could do maybe Mikal Bridges and Mitchell Robinson.
Could you
That's
imagine?
I know you trade Beal back to the Wizards, you trade Mikal for KD, and it's just the biggest egg on your face you could possibly imagine if you're Matt Ishbia. But look, so I think I'm skeptical here. I think you and I are both skeptical.
Yeah.
Talk to me about OG though, because like if that's kind of this probably the centerpiece if this happens. Is that like where does that rank for you among like Jaden McDaniels and blah blah blah, the guys we've kind of talked through? OG Anunoby on a big contract already and kind of in his prime. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I really like OG, but man, he makes a lot of money. He got what was it, $226 million? I'm looking at his contract right now. I know he makes $36 million a year, but I think got like 200 plus from the Knicks. They kind of had their hands tied and had to trade for him. I don't know if I really like OG. This is not me trying to, push him off to the side. Fairly decent 3-point guy. I think he shoots 37% from three. Tough as nails. The hamstring thing, I think, has been an issue in the past, if I'm not mistaken, with him. And just a tough guy to be able to defend all the way through the floor. I've liked him ever since he came out of Indiana, I believe it was, years ago. And then he went to the Raptors.
And had a pretty serious injury there, too.
Yeah.
So that's always a concern.
I like it, man. What's the rest of it? Like Mitchell Robinson, I'm pretty sure he's played like 12 games this year. That's been the issue with Mitchell Robinson. If you want to put together an all hypothetical Suns trade team, Mitchell Robinson would be on that. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that scratches the itch, man. I think when you go back to the trades of like, I'd rather just have the upside in Jabari Smith and the Suns picks back. But also what I've been trying to find is what picks the Knicks could trade, because they gave up 5 of them in the Mikal Bridges trade.
As of right now, the Knicks can trade 0 picks, but
there it is.
This summer they would be able to trade their 2032 technically if they wanted to. I don't think they'll have it frozen because they're not a second apron team. They're just a first apron. They might not even be a first apron team. They might be just right up against that. So I think they'll have their 2032 pick, but that sounds. I don't know. I guess when you're all in, as the Suns have shown us. Maybe the Knicks follow suit, but that feels like quite a bit to stack into it. But that's technically in there. And then they also have Tyler Kolek, the guy that we spent a lot of the summer talking about for the Suns. He's on this team.
Who's barely played.
Pacome Dadier is the other draft pick that they had. He's 19, French kid. Maybe, that's a throw in. You don't really. That would just be if the Suns think he's anything. But not going to pretend like I know. Yeah, I agree with you, though. I think you're putting a pretty high cap on your team if you're committing to say OG Anunoby is going to be on our resetting squad for the next. I think he might be under contract longer than Booker, at 40 plus million, up to 48 by the end of it. That's not gonna. That's nobody's idea of a second best player on a title team. The Knicks can only pay him that because their actual best player makes nothing. He makes 25 this year, 35 next year. That's Jalen Brunson. So I don't think that I don't see a way that this one really makes sense unless you're talking multi-team. And at that point, I mean, every team makes sense. So
yeah, of course. No idea so let me ask you this. Since we're not talking about a third team right now, we'll get into all that in the summertime.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing a trade out to you. OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Tyler Kolek, and their 2032 pick. I don't know if they would give up that 2032 pick.
Yeah.
But would you do that? Kolek hasn't showed much of anything. Mitchell Robinson barely played this year. And OG is a little overpaid, I think is fair to say.
If the 2032 pick is actually on the table, I actually do think that this package becomes at least competitive with some of the other ones. I would probably still like Miami with Ware better. And I think some of the other teams, with picks, like San Antonio has some pretty good picks, and, the Rockets giving the Suns their own picks back, that's like this year, that's a guaranteed lottery pick. That has to be a decent, since it's a sure thing and it's a lottery pick, that's pretty valuable in addition to the players you'd be getting. So it would be in the mix, but that OG contract and everything, I just think you're getting into the risk of that becoming kind of a problem for you.
I've got one more vibes trade for you. No
Okay.
2032 pick. You'd probably have to try to figure out a way to get picks from someone else, if that's even possible. But could you get Bridges and Josh Hart back? And then Kolek? Or do you think the Knicks would be like, we're good?
I actually think the other package is better, yeah.
Okay.
To me, Josh Hart, I don't care. That's kind of a take it or leave it type of guy. He's 30 already, and he's already on a contract.
God, he's already 30?
Yeah, he was in the Anthony Davis trade. He won a title.
Oh
he
my
won
God,
a title like 10
dude.
years ago. Yeah. So,
he won a title? Well, you're talking about a national. Yeah, you're talking about a national title.
Yeah. That was like
okay.
Ago.
So Hart, I would agree, not on the table, and I think I'd rather have. I don't know, because Mikal Bridges is on a better deal. So if you're just talking about saving money, I'd rather have OG. I think I'd rather.
The problem is all these guys, like even OG, they are who they are. They're not getting better.
They're not getting any better.
27, 28, 29, even Cat's 29, like Achua, whatever, Mitchell Robinson. These guys are all they don't have any blue chip players. So that's, I think, the limiting factor for me is I would take some lesser picks or no picks if I was getting players who could become core pieces for me if I'm James Jones. But if it's just a bunch of guys in their prime and then whatever, it's like, what are you really even getting at the end of the day?
Is there anything to entice you to take Cat?
No, I don't see the point.
I agree with you. I agree. I just
would Matt Ishbia do it?
No, I mean, yes, I agree with you. All bets are off, but like
Cat and the 2032 pick, like it wouldn't floor me if I saw that Shams.
It wouldn't floor me. It wouldn't floor me, but it'd piss me off. It'd piss me off because you make it $50 million. He plays no defense, which is some of the problem now. But then, I mean, heck, you could go. I think D'Lo is being released, or I think his contract ends. So we could finally get that Slam magazine of Booker, D'Lo, and Cat. And
Speaking of things from 10 years ago, I think we got it. We got Book, D'Lo, Cat, and then Jordan Poole and Marcus Smart. The 2025-26 Phoenix Suns, baby. Would that
team just hypothetically, just for fun, would that team be worse to watch than this team?
No team would be worse to watch than this team.
That team would play we know they play no defense. That team would you would even expect them to play no defense. No, but that'd be funny.
No, it's games in the 140s. I mean, but honestly, that's the Suns' history. So give it to me. All right, that'll wrap us up. Hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. We got more content coming your way all week long. We got a back-to-back at home, Warriors and Thunder, Tuesday, Wednesday. One more episode between now and then, so keep it right here, and we'll talk to you next time.